Hello everyone, this is Russ Wagner again, coming to you from our little cottage here at the lake. And we're doing these videos to help people do what's become known as homesteading. For Diana and I just met growing up in rural Indiana. We did a lot of canning growing up, and when I was growing up we got most of our protein out of the woods or out of the fields or out of the lake. Fish and deer and all kinds of meat. But today we're going to start a series of videos on home canning chicken bone broth and chicken meat. This one is about like the one we did previously on turkeys, but there were chickens on sale, whole chickens, and we ended up buying a couple extra ones, and also a bag of chicken breast. They're down here on this end. I don't know if you can see them, but there's a whole bag of chicken breast down here that are boneless, skinless chicken breast, and 2 chickens, whole fryers, that we roasted. And the only thing I have on them is Mrs. Dash's chicken. It's actually made for grilling. It's a rub, and it's no salt added. And we've roasted them, and way too much for Diana and I to eat for lunch today. We're Sunday lunch right after equipping the ecclesia finished, and we're gonna have fried cabbage and chicken for lunch today. But we're gonna take the rest of this and show you how to make chicken bone broth and can the chicken. So stay with us through this whole series. Okay, well, you can see the chickens are done, and Diana and I have had our lunch already, and there's way too much chicken here for us to eat today. So what are you going to do? We're going to can it. So I'm going to bone this. It's cooling off right now a little bit, so I can bone all the meat off of it and get all the bones, and then in the next video we'll show you how to make bone broth. Okay, we're ready for this next little episode. Diana and I had lunch. We had fried cabbage and chicken, and we had a lot of chicken left over, as you can see, and I showed you in the previous little video. I have boned it and skinned it. So what we have in this pan is all the chicken meat. This is the brown meat. These are the breasts off the chicken. And then I had another bag of boneless, skinless chicken breasts that we did also. And then over here, we have all the bones and all the skin. And what we're going to do next is make chicken bone broth. So we're going to take this over to the roaster, and we're going to put all these bones in the broth that the chicken cooked in. We're just sticking them all back into the roaster. Now, if you don't have a big roaster like this, any crock pot will do the same thing. And some people will add a lot of stuff to the bone broth, like you can cut up carrots, celery, peppers. You can add a lot of things to it. But I like the flavor of the plain chicken broth. It comes out stronger that way. And then we're actually going to use this to make things. We'll add like noodles or dumplings, or maybe we could add carrots and squash and onions and make chicken soup with the broth. So we just leave it like it is. I was going to show you, let me grab one of the bigger bones. Something else that some people do, and I just didn't take the time to do it. But if you take the bigger bones, like these leg bones, and lay it on a cutting board, and take a large knife. What do you call those again?
The cleaver?
Cleaver. I forgot. Take a cleaver and whack it right in the middle. This bone will crack open and the marrow will be exposed. And if you did that, it makes the bone broth even stronger and richer. And it produces that makes homemade collagen. And a lot of the Patriot channels are selling powdered collagen. And this way you can make your own at home. Now, we didn't add any seasoning to this except Mrs. Dash's chicken barbecue rub that was on the chicken, and there's no salt. What I'm going to do is add 2 quarts of water, so we have all of those bones. And I threw the neck, the chicken necks. There was 2 chicken necks, and the giblets, and the tails. When we cook chicken, we usually cut the tails off. I call it chicken butt. We cut the tails off. It's in here, and all the skin. You'll see big chunks of skin. I know it might not look good, but it's very flavorful, and all that seasoning was on the skin. So we put that in, and we turn it to 200 degrees on this. If you're using a crock pot, just put it on low, and then we're going to put the lid on this. It's 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon. We're going to leave this on low, 200 degrees, overnight. And sometime tomorrow, we'll open this up and see if we have chicken broth. And we'll show you how to can it from there. The only downside of this is Ranger loves chicken. His dog food is made of chicken, and it just drives him crazy smelling chicken cooking all the time in the house for a couple of days. So hope you come back. We'll show you how to make the chicken broth and how to can it next. Hello, it's Russ Wagner with Hoosier Preppers, and we're here making bone broth out of chicken bone broth, and later we'll be canning the chicken meat as well. I've been working on the bone broth, and I'm here to finish up a little process. The bones have been in this roast since yesterday at 1 o'clock, and right now it's about 20 till 2. So they've been in the broth here for a little over 24 hours, and I'm going to turn it off. And right now we're going to get all the bones out of here. And I got bones and skin in here, and we're going to get it out, and then we'll strain. We're going to strain what's left through cheesecloth and get it ready to be canned. So this is all the carcasses of 2 chickens that we boned yesterday. We roasted them and boned them yesterday. And oh, the neck is in here, and the giblets, and anything else that we cut off of the chicken, it's in here. I'm getting it pretty good. Diana picked up this strainer at the dollar store because I couldn't find my big spatula. I have a big spatula that I cook fish with that has screen on it, and I couldn't find it. I don't know how I could lose something that big. I'm gonna have to move to the other little strainer thing. I'm not getting it all. This is the tedious process of getting all the bones out. Mostly you just got to get the bones and the bigger chunks, because we are going to run it through a strainer and a cheesecloth anyways. So I'm just looking for big bones and big pieces of chicken meat. There's a bone. I think I'm getting it. I think we're about there. Yeah, we'll call that good enough. Now I'm going to set this over here to the sink and get the strainer set up. We just use regular, these are 2-quart measuring cups and a colander and cheesecloth. And that's how we do it. I don't know how you want to do it, but it works for us. And then we're just going to strain this. It gets all the little pieces of chicken meat out of the broth. So all we have left then is broth. And again, we didn't add any seasoning or any chemicals. So this is all like very natural. You know, even chickens, when they're frozen in the freezer and you get them out of the store, they have some chemicals added to them, some preservatives. And I don't know how to get away from that unless you raise your own chickens. And we've done that before. We've raised chickens and raised them for meat and for eggs, both. But when you buy chickens in the store, they do have some preservatives and some chemicals added already. All we had on the roasted chickens was it was actually a barbecue rub, but I used it in the roaster. It was a barbecue rub made just for chickens, for chicken barbecue. So it was a good rub and a good seasoning. I think that's going to do it for that one. I need to, hold on here, we got to get the other measuring cup. And we're going to slide this all back. And I got to pick this up and let it drain just a little bit. Wow, that looks really good. Looks like liquid gold. And then we're going to do this one. Same thing. Get it up here closer, then I won't drip so much. When we cooked the chicken, I had put 2 quarts of water in the bottom of this roaster, and then the chickens made quite a bit of juice themselves. And then after I put the bones in, I actually put 4 quarts. I know that on the previous video, you saw me add 2 quarts of water. I actually did it again, so it had 4 quarts of water because we had a lot of chicken broth and it would have been very, very concentrated. We're getting it. Well, one more scoop I think will do it. And we're going to have some broth left in the roaster again. We're going to keep that. When Diana does the canning of the meat, she'll push the meat down in, and then there's space. And so we have to do what's called backfill. This is not going through because there's so much meat down in there. It's not. There it's going. That's about it. We're going to set this over to the bones. Now, if you could, Diana, come in here close and look at this. Wow, that looks beautiful. 4 quarts of homemade chicken bone broth. And over here in the roaster, we have probably another 2 quarts. I'll go ahead and strain it just like I did these. And if we don't need all of it for the canning of the chickens, we'll put another quart together and can it. So that's it for now. I'm going to let these set, and they get to be room temperature. And once they get room temperature, the grease or fat from the chicken floats to the top. And then I just take a big spoon and get that off so we don't can that, because the chicken grease or fat can bubble up and ruin the seal. So we get most all of it off that we can. So we'll be back when we're ready to put these into the pints.
So we have our broth, our chicken bone broth here. We've already filled these 5 jars, and we're going to fill the last one now. We've let this set, and we skimmed off the grease, so it's the grease is already off of it. We're going to pour the broth in to the bottom, just to the bottom rung, so we leave enough head space for it to seal. That's good. So we have that done. I have some white vinegar here and a cloth. I'm just going to go around the edge to make sure we don't have any grease or chicken or anything on there, and also check for any chips. These jars are new, so that's probably not a problem. We're going to put our lid on and the ring, and we're just going to do finger tight. We don't want to crank it hard. Now we have our canner, and we've got water in here, and it's warming. It's warm enough actually for these because they're room temperature. So we're going to go ahead and put our jars in. One thing we want to mention is All-American, this is an All-American canner, does say there is some risk with using a flat top glass stove. It could crack the glass, but we've used it with no problem. But I wanted to just mention that so that you're aware. So that way you can look it up or choose whatever you feel comfortable doing. So we've got our 6 quarts, wide mouth quarts in the canner. Now we're going to do the lid. We got the arrow and the mark here. We go just to the right of that a little bit. And then we bring it over so it sets in there nicely. Check the spaces that it's down. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to tighten it opposites. You want to just not screw it down tight, but just snug, and do it opposites. Now I'm going to just give it a little bit of a tight and make sure our spaces are good. I think they're close. It feels level. It's not any play on it. Now, our valve is upright and it will let steam escape. So once that gets the steam coming out at a pretty steady pace, we can see it, we'll set the timer for 10 minutes, let it all come out, and then we close it like this, and then watch the gauge. We want it to come up to 10, and we'll do that because they're quarts for 90 minutes. Close, heat off, let this come to 0. Before you open it, you don't want to open it until it's at 0.
Right.
And that's it.
Okay, and there's Ranger. He thinks his actual dog food is chicken based, and he thinks he needs to eat some of this chicken. Okay, we're here making home canned chicken bone broth, and we put it in the boiler last night late. We actually went out for dinner with our community and got home late, and so we put it in late, and we pressured this for 90 minutes at 10 pounds pressure, and then we turned the fire off and we went to bed. This morning when I got up, I checked the steam. There was no steam, and I opened this. There was no pressure. I opened this. We actually let it set overnight. So now it's morning, and we're going to open it up and see what we got. See if we have chicken bone broth. I actually think I can get these out without the grabbers because they've been sitting overnight. Look at this. They have all sealed. Wow, look at that. Almost looks like honey, doesn't it? 6 quarts of homemade chicken bone broth. going to the shelf. We forgot to tell you one thing before we put the home canned goods or products on the shelf. We took the rings off and then we washed the sides because there'll be watermarks on the side from the boiler. We washed them, they'll look a lot nicer on the shelf. And we labeled them with what the product is and the date. That way we can rotate them out. The chicken bone broth probably has a shelf life of somewhere around 3 years, but to be honest with you, I don't think these will make it past a few months. So we date them, to rotate them, and keep the fresh ones up in the back and put the older dates in the front.
Hi, this is Diana, and we're working on chicken meat. We've done the broth, now we're gonna can the meat. I've already got 7 cans, 7 jars here, and I've already got them ready to go in the canner, so we're gonna go over what we do here. First, I'm going to fill the jar, and I have washed my hands, in case some of you wonder that. My hands are clean, jars are clean, lids are all clean. So we're gonna put our chicken, I got turkey on my head, chicken meat in the jar. And you can press down a little bit, but you don't want to pack it really tight. And that's pretty good. Next, we're gonna we have some broth here that's warm, and we add a little bit of water. This is some of our broth that we made and strained. So we want it just to the bottom of this ring, the last ring, to leave headspace. Actually, it looks pretty good. We may have to work on a couple things when we get our bubbles out. This is our little utensil that we use to get the bubbles. Just go down about 4 different times, and you'll actually see some bubbles. Now, because I did that, I think I'd like to add just a tad more broth to bring it just to the bottom. Okay, very good. Next, I've got my clean cloth and some white vinegar to wash around the edge of the jar, just to get off any broth or chicken, and check for any chips or dings on your jar, although these are new, so it's not a big issue. This is our lid, which we've washed, and I think we covered before that you don't have to sterilize them, because in the pressure canner the germs and bacteria are gone. Okay, we're good to go. I put the ring on just finger tight. I don't make it too tight. Now we're going to set them in here. We have water, and we've gotten it warm. It's warming up. And this holds 8 wide mouth pints. Although if we had more, we could put another rack in and make it a double rack, but we're just going to do 8 today.
In the middle.
And we have 1 more. All right, that should do, and they're not going to be banging around. These look good. Now we're going to put the lid on, and there's a mark here, and we want to match it with our arrow, which is there. You put it over to the right a little bit till it sets. Bring it over. Yeah, see, it's not quite right. Now we'll try it. And match up, and then you want to make sure each of these, see, that wasn't quite down. Each of these are matched up pretty well, and there's no wiggle. Your lid is not wiggling around here. And the spaces look good. It'll tighten, but you just want to make sure. Now we tighten the screws opposites, so comes down level, and when you first put them on, you just snug, because you go around and tighten again. That's not quite right. This one is not quite.
You're going tight. You gotta get loose.
Something, okay. It wasn't quite fitting. There we go. Okay. I think it looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
2 more. Why? I'm not sure. Okay. Now, the valve is up, which means the steam can escape. We want it that way. We'll turn the heat up, and when we get a steady flow of steam, we set our timer for 10 minutes to release to clear out the steam inside. And then we're going to close it like that and watch the gauge. We want it up to 10. And then we'll set our timer once we have this up to 10, we set the timer for pints at 75 minutes. So 1 hour and 15. And then when we're all done, we just turn the heat off, let the cooker set, or the canner, until you're down to 0 on the gauge. And then you can open this and any little bit of steam will come out, and just let it cool on its own. And that's it for now. We'll be back.
Okay, we're going to turn the flyer up and get it steaming, and when these are all done, we'll be back and see what we got. We had this canner on for 75 minutes, 10 pounds pressure, and then we turned the burner off, and we let the pressure go down to 0, and that's where we are now. And I'm going to open this. Okay. Okay, we had this canner. Okay, we had this canner on for 75 minutes, 10 pounds pressure, and then we turned the burner off, and we let the pressure go down to 0, and that's where we are now. And I'm going to open this to make sure there's no steam left. There's no steam left. It's on 0. So it's time for us to open it up and see what we got going on here. Okay. Wow. It looks to me like they all sealed. We'll get them out. It's a little hard to get wide mouths out. They take up the entire space. Yeah. About knocked one over. My nightmare would be if I dropped one of these. But so far I haven't. They're still hot. Just the lid's kind of in the way over there. Move this a little bit. There you go. 8 pints of home canned chicken all we have left to do now is we're going to let them set for a little while and cool off so we can actually handle them. As you can see, they're still boiling right here. They're still boiling. I think they all have sealed. We're going to just let them set undisturbed for a little while. They'll cool off. We will take the rings off, wash down the sides of the jar so the water marks are no longer there from the time they were in the canner. And then we'll put labels on the top. It'll say chicken and then today's date. Okay? Then we take them out to the pantry shelf, and that's it. That's it for this series of videos on. We've been talking about canning chicken bone broth and chicken meat. We hope you enjoyed this homesteading in the ecclesia, and we hope that you get involved in getting off the system and becoming more self-reliant. That's what we're hoping that people will do. Goodbye for now. We'll be back with more videos later.